Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tactical Harmony. And our next guest is a distinguished neuro-obstetrical anesthesiologist, former professor of anesthesiology, certified trauma-informed life and leadership coach, and founder of the UnNumb Method and the UnNumb Collective. Dr. Stephanie Byerly. She has authored publications on physician wellness, dismantling gender bias in the workplace, and has held leadership roles including chief of staff and chair of the American Society of Anesthesiologists Committee on Women Anesthesiologists. She empowers women to break free from limitations, reclaim their authentic power, and lead with purpose. And very excitingly, she is an upcoming TEDx speaker at UCLA. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Stephanie Byerly to the show.
Thank you. Yay. Excited to be here.
Oh, I am thrilled that you were here. And let's start off by hearing the journey of how you became an anesthesiologist.
So I was sick as a kid a lot and in the hospital when I was really young, probably 4 years old, for about a month. And there was a student nurse who befriended me. And I wish I knew her name. This was so long ago, but she, I think, was pivotal in me becoming a physician. We used to go around every night and fill up the oxygen tents with ice. And she, was always there. And I was terrified of needles because I had to get 4 shots in my butt every day for a month because I had terrible pneumonia. And so I'd go hiding under the cribs and think, I remember this. It's crazy. I think I was 4. But she always would coax me out and, she befriended me. And then I had my tonsils out a year later. Somehow she knew, and I woke up and there was a little doctor bag, one of the plastic doctor bags on my nightstand. And so I think that she knew. And then I always wanted to become a physician. And when I was in medical school, I thought I wanted to be an OBGYN. And then I spent some time doing anesthesia for a week. And I was like, wait a minute, this is kind of cool. And so I really thought, well, I think I like being on the other side of the curtain better. And so, but then became an anesthesiologist, but I specialize in obstetrics. So it was sort of full circle. Yes.
Wow. I love hearing the journey of how people come to be, and do their careers choose them? Do they choose their careers? All of the things. And it's so fascinating how we enjoy all of these wonderful things in our career. So now fast forward a little bit. The UnNumb, love the name by the way.
Thank
UnNumb
you.
Method, UnNumb Collective, such an amazing play on words. What is that? Can you explain to our audience, what is that?
Yes. Can I tell my story about how I got the unknown really quickly? Okay.
Please do. Yes.
So I have a very long history of trauma. I mean, forever. And when I got divorced, I decided I was going to go on my journey and figure out, why I was showing up the way I was. I had 2 daughters I was primarily responsible for. And I thought, you know what, I've got to figure this out. And so I started doing something called psychodrama. I know this sounds really nutty, but you go with the same people like every 6 weeks and you reenact your traumas with them. Like you set up a stage and you ask people that you know and trust now to play the different parts in the trauma. And the woman who was the facilitator was an incredible facilitator. And she was standing over me one night, and I think it was our second day, and it was probably close to 11 p.m. And I was just like worn out. And she said, why did you become an anesthesiologist? And I'm giving her all these reasons, and I won't use any expletives, but she was like, something, something, Stephanie, why did you become an anesthesiologist? And I said, Shirley, I guess I don't know. Please tell me. And she said, because you've been numb your entire life. And you make people numb every day during the worst possible things that can be done to them in the operating room during surgery. And I tell you, Rebecca, it was like a light bulb went off and my life literally flashed before me. And I could see myself numb, like physically present, but my brain was somewhere else. And I really started understanding what my trauma had done to me, but not in the way that we understand trauma now, because this was 20 years ago. And so I didn't understand the nervous system pieces and all that, but I knew that I was showing up in the ways that I did because of my trauma. And so that was the most defining moment, but it also helped me understand I'm not broken and really there's no other way it could be. So fast forward to becoming a coach and then really thinking about all the pieces and how can I help women? And what I discovered is most women, not just women, but so many high achieving women are walking around like barely alive. They're just numb. They're disconnected from themselves, everybody else. They've lost connection to their higher power, to why they're here. And I thought, wow, the UnNumb Method. So it's my method of coaching that incorporates my life coaching, my trauma informed coaching. I also specialize in women centered coaching, which is a special kind of coaching for women that they have to have, and my life experiences and being a physician. So I call it my the UnNumb Method because it's sort of the secret sauce of putting all those amazing things together. And I'm just so excited about it. And the UnNumb Collective is my group coaching, basically that I'm working on launching right now.
Wow, that's so incredible. And you were such a force, like a weapon system. You have the medical training, the lived experiences, your own personal trauma and defining moments, which thank you for sharing that very vulnerable moment because I think so many of us go through a moment where we have some awakening or like
Yeah.
you called it a defining moment where you were Dr. Stephanie Byerly before that moment and then life changed after that moment because what you experience, you can't unexperience or
Yeah.
unknow or unsee. And how that manifested for you into all of this coaching and then to create the method and the unnumb collective to be able to help others so they don't have to endure things that maybe you had to endure.
Yeah, and I'm I would say that I can go very deep very quickly with people, and so the thing that's so great is when we talk about this is compressing time. And so what took me like a 20-year journey, all the pieces, and I'm grateful for the journey and it happened the way it was supposed to, but it doesn't have to be that long of a journey and you don't have to search out so many different types of people. And so I'm grateful to be able to offer that to my clients. And I also am able to really help women because I primarily coach women is to understand when they have narcissists in their life. I'm like exquisitely aware of narcissists because I've had some really destructive narcissists in my life and suffered narcissistic abuse and I didn't even know when it was happening. And so when I talk to my clients, every one of them has a narcissist in their personal and or professional life. And so I started digging into this more and narcissists target high-powered women. It's
Really?
really interesting. Mhm.
Wow. Why
Mhm.
do they target high performers?
They see like this shiny penny and because internally they're so shameful and they hate themselves, but they don't understand that. They see these very, very charismatic, powerful women and they're like, "Oh, I want what they have." And it is that whole thing of at first being enamored by the person and then it's sort of when it gets into the abusive part and that person is not providing what the narcissist thinks is making them happy from the other person, they start to control and do all these things. Their narcissistic traits come out, but they're exquisitely drawn to powerful women because they're like, I want what she has and she's going to make me happy. Yeah, and other women do it to women. I have had 2 women narcissists in my life, and one was at work, and somebody that I thought was my best friend who literally made it her mission to destroy my career.
God, okay. So, wow, there's so much to unpack. Yeah, that's thank you for sharing that because I don't think we would attune to that or we would realize that and until it's brought to our awareness. So, I really appreciate you doing that because there's one particular narcissist who stands out in my life who was a woman. So, I'm glad that you called that out
Yeah.
too. It's not, male narcissist versus female narcissist. It can be a female or I shouldn't say that. It's not male
Yeah.
narcissists on high performing women. It can also be a woman. And
Yeah.
that was my experience with it. And it's jarring. It is hell. It is horrible. And
It's soul wounding. I mean, it literally is, it's mortal wounding of your soul because you almost think that another woman you could trust. And so I think in some ways it's even more devastating. So yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and you're a high performer. So, and I'll speak to my own experience, you're absolutely crushing it, you're slaying it, you're doing all of the things and then some, right? Like you are setting the
Mhm.
standard, you're working your ass off and it's not enough. And
Yeah.
then you start to question yourself and it affects all parts of you, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. It affects all parts of you until you break that. So that's amazing that you have that area of expertise and you were able to lend that to high performing women in particular. And that leads me to my next question for you is in your experience in coaching these amazing incredible women, what is a common thing that women are numb to, so to speak? Like maybe they're not realizing it, but you see a common theme amongst high performing women.
Well, it's really these inner barriers that and as you mentioned before, it's when you make the invisible visible, you can't unsee it. And so most of my clients come to me, there are these, as you met, badass women, conquered, achieved, they've checked every box, right? And people would look at them and say, well, you have a perfect life. Why are you even, what is wrong with you? And really the common thread is this achiever identity. And one of my mentors, Dr. Claire Zammit, talks about this. And it is really understanding from being socialized as a woman, from your family of origin, right? Epigenetics, like society now, about what a woman is supposed to be. So no matter how successful you are, we still have this invisible operating system that it's never enough because we don't get any validation from ourselves. We've been taught that we have to get our validation from other people, from things, so specifically men or certificates or degrees or we're constantly trying to optimize ourselves to make ourselves feel better. So we're like, okay, well, I just accomplished this and I felt great for a day. So like, how can I move the bar so that I can try something else and hope that I can feel better? So the common theme, there's many, but overarching is not understanding that we're so disconnected from ourselves. And people say, "Oh, just get back to your authentic self." Most of us don't know what that even is because we've been on this path of conquering, achieving, and doing it all. I'm a good little girl because we've been told by the time we're 9, be smart, but not too smart. Talk, but don't talk too much. Be successful, but not too, right? All of this. So we live in a cage and we don't even know the boundaries of the cage. And we constantly seeking external validation. Somebody, please just tell me I'm doing a good job. Somebody thank me, And so when you start to explain that, it's like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. And it lifts this burden off and you start to see a light and then it really starts to steamroll because you start to realize that, you know what? Oh my gosh. It's like I have been looking through a pair of virtual reality goggles and the first three screens are shame, lack, and isolation. And now I have this achiever identity and there's all these other 21 inner barriers. And it's like, well, damn, how else could we be? I mean, it's like it's like society tells us now if you're not burning yourself out, and this is for men and women, but more so for women. If you're not like falling into bed at night because you're so exhausted from taking care of everybody else and making your to-do list impossible, that something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
It's so messed up.
It's oh gosh, there's so much to unpack there. And yeah, it's I affectionately call it chasing the next career high. And I think the term you used was achiever identity. And that is so true. And I will very, very humbly and candidly admit that was me. And I didn't know that I was doing it. I didn't know that I was chasing the next career high and doing the next thing and saying yes to all the assignments and doing all these things. And yeah, was I learning and growing? Yeah, absolutely. And was there success and did I have fulfillment? Yeah, until I didn't. And I realized there was no other career high that was going to fill my cup. It was on me to do that and my
Yeah,
journey. And when I made the shift, and there's a lot of things that I did, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that we overlapped, and maybe some different things, but and it's in my own journey, once I stopped doing that, everything changed, and that's how I was able to find my authentic self and live in alignment with my mission and my core values and my vision and everything.
mm,
Everything
yeah.
in life and business, because business is an extension of ourselves, changed.
Absolutely. And we've done things in such a masculine energy, which we needed a lot of that. The set a goal, be very strategic, very linear. We need that. But the feminine balance has it's swung too far to the masculine. And so, really, we don't listen to ourselves very much anymore. We don't trust our intuition, all those little inner voices that are knocking and saying, please, please listen to me, or, take care of yourself, or, just let's get reconnected. It's like we silenced all of those parts of us. And so we don't even know who we are or why we're doing what we're doing anymore. And that's why there's millions of women. It's called self-actualization phase, basically, where we're at the point now where we're like, what's the next level? I have to go from achieving to becoming sort of the creator of my own life and evolving so that I can actually evolve the consciousness of this planet. And it doesn't mean that every woman has some grand mission of going and, making global impact, but it may mean in her own life, reconnecting to relationships, first to herself and then to relationships and, her family, her friends, whatever it is. But it's getting to the point where you are like radiantly happy and back in yourself and you know who you are and you are really just coming at life with a very different energy. And women are like magnetic when they're like that. They just draw in other people because they're giving from abundance rather than scarcity, and that's a whole different ball game.
It sure is. Yeah,
Yeah.
giving from lack, like, you cannot create from lack or a scarcity mindset. You
Mhm.
create from having that abundant mindset, and it starts with yourself, and it starts with our inner self, and that's why I meditate. I meditate, which has been utterly transformative for me, so it allows me to shut off all the senses from this 3D world, take off the virtual reality headset, and go within. And
Yeah.
all answers lie within. And it is such a beautiful, divine, feminine, I'll say, way. And maybe you answered this, but just for our audience, I would like to hear your answer to this. We talk a lot and we hear a lot about in today's world masculine and feminine and the divine feminine and all of these things and reconnecting. And I think you organically touched on it a little bit, but could you clarify for us what is that divine feminine strength and like what is that? Because I know a lot of high performers, high performing women in particular, exist in that masculine energy. So how do they know what is masculine versus feminine and to reconnect them to themselves in a feminine way?
Well, and let me just quickly explain sort of the history. If you go back like 5,000 years, women were the sort of the leaders of their cities, because they led in such an egalitarian way where there was not discrimination. Everybody's voice was heard. They weren't necessarily maybe the leaders, but they led the culture. And temples and things like this, like they were the religious leaders. Back in Europe 5,000 years ago, the temples were in the shape of vaginas. Like there'd be a vulva, you'd walk in, it would be like the womb, right? So it was that women were divinely connected to the earth and also the stars and led through kind of their intuition and their connection just to Mother Earth. um, Gaia, like if you talk about the earth as Gaia or Pachamama, like, mothers that are connected to the earth. And so it was really that connection and listening to themselves because they were connected to their ancestors as well. So when we talk about the divine feminine, it really is this deep connection to self and to your womb space. So even if, say, you don't have a uterus anymore, it doesn't matter. It's just that that area is the seat of your power. So if we talk about chakras and things like this, your root chakra, your sacral chakra, it's like the seat of your power as a woman because we create life. Like all life comes from a woman. And so it's infinite possibility. So it is this strength and this inner knowing. And that the intuition, the inner knowing. Like I had experience a couple of months ago. I was driving home from work in the morning and I was so tired. I'd been up all night and I needed gas. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to stop and get gas. And something said, you need to get off the road. And I went and got gas and I got back on like 10 minutes later and I would have been in a horrific accident. There was right in front on the same road where I would have been. There was a terrible, terrible, terrible accident. And I was like, wow. And so I've really started listening to myself and making decisions, not from a hurried place, but from a place also of not just doing, being, and just sort of being and listening and going out in nature and watching like the bees and the hummingbird, just all of it, and just like getting the grand nature of what we're this planet. Put your feet in the dirt, just sit there and just allow and listen. And even like moving your body, like for women, like dancing and getting just connected with that. You make decisions from a different place. So there's the divine masculine as well, which we have. And then there's men who are the divine masculine, and they also carry some of the divine feminine. I went to a conference where it was called Magnetic, Dr. Amanda Hansen. She had 4 men who were considered the divine masculine that she had trained to be there with us. And we just got to hold their hand and look in their eyes. And they were just there to witness us, not to look at us as sexual beings or whatever, just to witness us as the divine feminine. And so it's really that connection to yourself. And one of the biggest things I'm learning is pleasure. And so when women become connected to their pleasure, you're unstoppable. You really are unstoppable.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for outlining and sharing what that looks like because I know a lot of people might know about it or they know a little bit. So, thank you for sharing that. And yes, we all of us have both. And I have seen so many high performing women in particular really suppress unconsciously but suppress their divine feminine. And it's really funny.
Yeah.
I'm going to share this. I was at a mastermind or a conference once, and I was learning about the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Unsurprisingly, based on my history, I was very much living and operating in the masculine, and that's because I had to, right?
Right.
And it's something that comes very natural to me, but I was suppressing the divine feminine. And there was an exercise of dance. And hey, women, we're going to play this song and just move your bodies intuitively. And I love to dance, but I wasn't always trained or I've never been trained to dance intuitively. And so that was a really unique experience to like just really close my eyes, feel the music and move my body intuitively. Not
Yeah.
for the sexual pleasure of another, not because my friend or my buddy's watching me or anything. It is just me in my being, in my feminine, moving my body, feeling the music. And it was meditative.
Yeah.
It was a trance, and it was so beautiful, and I love that exercise because a lot of women shared that they felt shame come up, and they
Mhm.
started to feel these, like, low frequency emotions come up because they were worried about judgment, or, "I shouldn't be doing this. This is gonna attract unwanted attention," or, like, crazy things come up, and that
Yeah.
revealed to them their blockers. It served as a mirror.
And I'll tell you what, one of the biggest things for women is the amount of rage and anger that we have suppressed, right? Because be a good girl, you're not supposed to show anger or rage because that's not okay, right? Women aren't supposed to do that. And I was at this magnetic conference and we did something called swamping. There's an amazing book called The Pussy Reclamation by Mama Gina, who has it's a school called the School of Womanly Arts in New York. She's amazing. This woman is 69 years old. She just came back from a 5-day orgasm retreat. I was cracking up when I read it. Yes. Um, and in the book, she described swamping, and Dr. Hansen at her conference did it. There was 200 women when you put on a trash bag and, you have a hole for your head and you get on the ground and you do, it's a combination of like grief and rage and then sort of, then celebrating your divine feminine. 200 women were on the ground screaming, howling, ripping themselves out of a trash bag because whoever gets to do that.
Wow.
And she even said, she's like, and if you're numb and if you can't feel anything, I want you to think about all the little girls around the world that are being indoctrinated with the patriarchy or abused or genital mutilate, all the things, and everyone just lost it. Like, but there's so much rage. And so now I do these swamping ceremonies regularly, like at least once a month, because it's to celebrate just you go through the process of acknowledging your grief and what's going on in our world right now. I mean, there's so much grief about everything, but if you can let yourself feel it and go through that rage and then sort of the celebration after, it is unbelievable. And that's also a place of showing up with a lot of abundance versus scarcity because you're not holding in all of this toxic stuff.
Yes. It's holding on to grief in particular, or anger or rage
Mhm.
or frustration, shame, guilt, any low frequency emotion. When you're holding on to that, your body keeps the score. And I know there's
Yeah.
books out there. I think that's what the book is called. I've actually never read the book,
Yes, it is. That's what
but
it's called.
it is called that, okay, and it's, but I have studied neuroscience and the neuroscience of change under Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I know that when we're holding on to these things and we're keeping it in, it's gonna physically manifest. It's gonna mentally manifest. It's going to manifest in some way. Ease, right? Dis-ease, right? There's something wrong. You're not in ease and flow. Maybe you'll see it on your skin. Maybe it'll show up in a tumor. Maybe it'll show up in your personality, right? Because I fully believe that our personal reality creates our personality. And so maybe you're
Yeah.
just one of those people that you're just looking for a reason to be mad or pissed off. We all know those people that anything could set them off and you're walking around on eggshells. But what I
Mhm.
know is I believe that we are souls having a human journey, and part of our experience and lessons here on schoolroom earth, if you will, is to feel the spectrum of emotions. Allow it to wash all over you. Feel the joy, feel the pain, feel the grief, feel the love, right? Because that polarity, it's we know light because of dark.
Yeah.
And, it's faith is fear inverted, right? And so if we embrace that, we become stronger, leaner, faster. We can sustainably hold things and then be able to serve others and show them what's possible.
Yeah, and if we think about our culture today, it's this toxic positivity, right? Like you should never be sad. You should always, turn it around and make it positive. Well, yeah, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes there's just hideous things that are happening and there's no way to make it a positive experience. And like as you said, right, we're so afraid to experience these low frequency negative emotions because we're told that that's bad. And we have to, or like you said, it comes out sideways. And with trauma, we've all had some type of trauma. And when we look at the fact that your personality was set in place by the time you're 7, 8, or 9 years old based on what happened to you as a kid, then you can start to understand. And we don't blame our parents, but it gives us this understanding. Like you look at your adverse childhood experiences survey and look at the number, and you realize like your life expectancy may actually be less because of that. Or you may have a higher risk to have an eating disorder or anxiety or depression or addiction or be incarcerated. Like, and for people in the medical field, If you have a score of 4 or more and you become a physician, you have a 2.5 times burnout rate. So it's just to really realize, like, you're not broken. You just have to understand the waters you're swimming in.
Yeah, yeah, and the toxic positivity is just that. It is toxic and it's BS.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
people say, "Hey, well, just think positively," and no, okay, yeah, I can think positively all I want, but I could feel like shit or I could feel something else, right? And it's that thinking feeling loop. Like we feel a certain way, which creates thoughts that correspond to
Yeah.
that emotion. And it's this loop. So I can say, I am happy and really be dying inside. And it's until you process the
Yeah.
trauma, process the grief, or whatever you're going through in that particular season of your life, until you confront it and you process it and you move with it and you just feel it, you're suppressing it. And I get it. I think, a lot of folks out there, it's easier to push it under the rug. It's easier not to talk about it because it's weak to talk about your
Right.
emotions, and it's weak. Like,
Right.
I was raised that way in the Midwest. Like, we don't talk about things. What happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors, and don't you dare cry. That's weakness. And so, like,
Yeah.
I had to bring all those to my awareness through all my work and soul work, as I call it, because those are limiting beliefs. And I didn't know that I was operating under those constraints. And that's what I'm going to call them, and BS, bullshit, belief systems, until
Yeah.
I
That's
realized
awesome.
it. And then I was
Yeah.
like,
Well,
this isn't serving me.
uh,
Let's kick it to the curb. And then, I started to blossom and become more of my true self.
yeah, because well, when we realize, like you said, limiting belief, those are neural pathways. If you think a thought enough times, it becomes a belief and it's a neural pathway. And so just to realize we have to modify or break down these neural pathways with new ones and form new ones. But the thing that's really, I think, important is how we weaponize like even gratitude,
Mhm.
especially for when just do a gratitude practice. Oh, well, you should just be grateful for what you have and stop complaining, right? Like as a woman. And so it's such a mind, like, because you're like, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just, is there something wrong with me? And so it's so convoluted with what we're being told. People are afraid to feel their feelings, right? But we also have to understand the neuroscience. Our brain doesn't like it either. And so your brain goes, huh, I don't like this negative emotion. So I'm going to send you a signal. Go get a dopamine hit. And what that means for us now, drinking, eating, my God, social media, right? Shopping. Okay, that's me. Working out, working, porn. I mean, just all of this stuff, right? And then you do that and you feel better for a little bit and then it's back to the same.
I'm so glad that you called that out because it is the dopamine hit, because our brain is designed to keep us safe. It is Jurassic, and we have to understand that our brain is that archaic thing, and so we have to master it, otherwise it will control us. And so, yeah, you're going to feel discomfort because that's a sign of growth, and growing pains are called that for a reason. So, if I am comfortable, I'm not going to feel anything, and you know what, let me just numb that. And for some it's porn or, drinking or smoking or social media or retail therapy or whatever it is. And, listen, I'm not saying some of those things in moderation are bad. I truly believe that nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. But in excess, when you are avoiding something, i.e.,
Yeah.
yourself, your emotions, like people are scared to death, Stephanie, to be alone. They're scared to death to have that moment of stillness. And as you stated earlier, like it just not to do, but to be. And we are human beings. And how many
Mhm.
people take the time to be?
You know what? And honestly, for women, our nervous systems have been set up in this achiever identity where we're never at rest and we're always braced and we're always feeling like we should be anticipating everybody else's needs so that we could be accepted. Because what this whole achiever identity has set up is a sense of safety for us. Because for women, failing, right, is not safe. Like we're supposed to be perfect. So people say, good job. And this goes back to caveman days. If you were kicked out of the cave as a woman or anybody at that time, you would have been eaten, right? So women That's where this whole, I want to be a people pleaser, I want to be liked, that's where it started. When you think about that, it's like, well, yeah, okay, now this all makes sense, right? And then the women we saw in our lives, our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, our epigenetic. I mean, it's like this box we live in, right? And we get to hit the walls of the box, but the box has walls.
Yeah, and it's really I'll say it's breaking generational curses too. I mean, like as you said,
Yeah.
like going back and looking at your mother or grandmother or ancestors that you don't even know, but you can see very clearly and maybe your close family proximity, if you will. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious. And so like be the one that breaks that chain.
Right, right. And that's where this achiever identity that Dr. Zamet explains. And she said, you know what? Mission accomplished. Like it got us out of traditional roles, which this is not a criticism of anybody, but women who wanted to have careers and have, a family or, be a wife with those pieces that were always there and do more if they wanted to. And that's what this achiever identity allowed us to do. But now we're at the end of what this identity can do for us. So that's why we're numb or we're barely alive. Like we're just walking around, like we're here, we have the mask of perfection on, and inside our soul is dying.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can usually spot them. And I know when we first got connected, I believe I shared this with you, but I truly believe that one of the greatest tragedies in the world is you're successful on paper, but you're, like you said, dying inside. You're not
Yeah.
fulfilled, you're dying, your soul is screaming, and there are usually so many signs, and it's not until you do the soul work or the journey or
Mhm.
your method and collective or whatever, pick your poison, so to speak, and then you look back and you're like, "Wow, I had so many red flags," or wow, there are so many signs, and hindsight really is 2020. So I really do think there should be an element of grace that's infused there, right? Like we do grow through what we go through, but there is there's an element of evolution.
Yeah.
And Rebecca in this decade of my life was not Rebecca in the previous decade, and I was learning and growing and getting lessons and blessings that I needed for that time, and now I'm having different ones. And it shows
Yeah.
up differently and how I am able to serve others. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Because when we look back and say, what's the worst part about what's happening? But then say, and what's the worst part about or excuse me, the best part about being my age now? The wisdom, all the things, and be able to reframe all the other things, and really look at now being the creator. So I'm authoring my life. I'm not living my life based on anybody else's expectations or rules. I am authoring my life. And guess what? I know that there's going to be tough times and I'm not going to collapse. I'm going to understand that's part of the journey. And I'm going to have sort of self leadership, self worthership so that I'm just going to keep on going and creating as I go and modifying and all the things.
Amen. Yes, it's
Yeah.
self-leadership, and that's what we focus on here in Tactical Harmony is leading all parts of you, leading yourself, and then how that leadership extends to others. And this came through, so I want to share it before I ask you my next question. I was doing a meditation. It was at a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat. It was out in
I love him.
Nashville. Big
I
heart.
love
Like
him.
I've read his books, been to retreats, advanced retreats. Like I'm a forever student. And this particular meditation, a lot of things come through. And this vision, this knowing, this understanding that I am the director of my life. I am the creator of my life. But in the past, I've played different roles. And it kind of came through that I was the actress, or I was playing this role, or I was doing this and, producing, and then now I'm writing. And it was so interesting to see all these different roles that we can play. But when you have that inner knowing and realization that it's you in control, nobody else is writing for me. I'm writing. I'm actually the
Yeah.
director. I'm all of the things. And it was this like, like this crazy moment that I experienced in
Yeah.
that meditation. And I was like, wow, and I'm in tears. And it was actually during a walking meditation that we were doing outside. I was like, whoa, it was just so transformative, Stephanie. Like it was one of those moments that I never forgot. And now, like, as I go through my days, I know that I'm creating my day. I'm not letting anything dictate my day. Even if quote unquote something bad happens, okay, I control my response to it. I got this. Like, I have the power. I am not giving my power to anyone else because that's a choice. I maintain that power and how I'm responding and processing and everything in between.
But didn't that change your life to realize that you do have that power when you understand? And that's so a big part of my coaching is the life coaching piece where we actually, there's this thing called the thought model, where you actually understand if you start to realize what your brain's doing, you can actually plan your outcome. And it's fascinating. And you love Joe Dispenza. I love him too. And I love Tony Robbins. And like I'm looking at it right now on my wall. He has something called Now I Am the Voice. I don't know if you've ever heard that before.
Yes.
I live by it because you're the leader in your brain. He's not talking about leading other people, it's leading yourself. And that's the magic. And if people could just slow down, yeah, the work can be painful. Okay, you'll survive. Guess what? It's the way to it discomfort is the currency of your dreams. Like, just keep going.
Beautiful. Discomfort is the currency of your dreams. I had to
It
repeat
really
that. We gotta make
is.
this a clip. It's beautiful. Yes, it is. And a huge Tony Robbins fan. I've been to all of his things.
Date with Destiny and
I
all
love
that.
Date with
Me
Destiny.
too. Me
Oh,
too.
so good. Hopo Ono.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Or
Yes.
something.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that. I just sent that to a client yesterday.
Oh,
And yes, oh my gosh. He changed my life. Tony Robbins changed my life. My daughter, we were in skiing and she developed diabetic ketoacidosis and telluride, but we didn't know she had diabetes. She just got sick. We thought it was altitude sickness. And she almost died. We had to get into a 2-seater plane and fly off a cliff in Telluride. And when we took off, it was a blizzard. And I thought, we're going to die in this plane. And the whole time, all I kept saying was, you cannot have fear and gratitude at the same time. I mean, I must have said it 2,000 times. And that was Tony Robbins and that is what got me through that whole experience. I was just thinking of him. You cannot have fear and gratitude at the same time. I was just grateful my daughter was alive right then. And it saved me.
oh, it's beautiful.
It
Thank you
really
for
did.
sharing that. Yeah,
Yeah.
we could do a whole other episode
Please.
on Tony Robbins and all of the things and the greats. But
Yeah.
I would like to hear. Tell us something about you that maybe most people don't know, or something that might be surprising about you.
I love cats. So my cat's up there on the I have 2 crazy cats. I'm like the crazy cat lady. And people laugh when I tell them I love to cook because they're like, "You cook?" And I'm like, "Yes, I love to cook." And I love to turn on music and just like dance around the kitchen, and especially now that I'm getting more connected to back to myself and just like being a little witchy. I have a robe that I wear that's like a goddess robe, and I walk around and just, getting my significant other, he's like, "I'm scared to come in your office because there's incense, you're playing a drum, you're wearing this robe." He's like, "I don't know what's going on in there."
I'm holding up my Palo Santo for those
Yeah,
that are listening, and
there
I
you
got
go.
stage over there. I see you.
Yeah. Yes. So it's all that kind of that piece of me and bringing more of that actually like into my daily at work because you go to work as a physician and you do have to act a certain way for the most part. And in the way that medicine is right now, it's just so busy that you can't really get to connect with people or slow down. But I'm trying to bring more of that in and forming relationships and really connecting with people on a different level. Um, and so, yeah, just I think that's the thing is really getting connected to myself and bringing in those more sort of, I guess, not gentle, so I would say, but more connected to who I truly am rather than the achiever, just go, 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 go. I don't have time to talk. I don't have, and really realizing the impact you can have on.
Beautiful. Yeah. And you're embodying and living your truth and expressing
Yeah.
that and your authentic self. And I always like to tell people, and I know I've said it on our show before, is you can be this and that. Like, there's all parts of you. You can be an incredibly amazing badass doctor, and you can also have sage in your goddess robe
Yeah.
and dance in your kitchen with your cats and your significant
Yes.
other and make the delicious food. And,
Mhm.
like, I totally see you and feel you because I am all of those things. Like, I can be a very serious mofo when I wanna be, I was a special agent for years, but I am goofy and laid back, and I love holistic things, and I
Mhm.
meditate, and I like to go out and have fun. I like breweries, wineries, like, there's all parts of you, and all parts of me are all parts of me, right? Like, I'm not just one thing, I'm not
Mhm.
faking it. Like, I love to be serious and get after it, and then I love to watch funny movie with Vince Vaughn or a scary movie with Michael Myers. Those are all
Yeah.
parts of me, and I'm not scared of that. And you really realize people really do have stereotypes, and I'll just gently touch on this. I was, here in Montana, that's where I live, and I was getting a massage, and I was talking to this male masseuse, and we were getting to know each other, and he was talking to me about just careers and business, and he learned that I was a former NCIS agent,
Mhm.
and you would have thought I told him that I murdered somebody, or I don't know, like, I said something so surprising, and, I kinda waited to understand his reaction, and he's like, "I can't believe you were an agent because you're really nice." And I'm like, "Do you think that agents are mean? Do you think law
Yeah.
enforcement's mean?" There's obviously an element of authority and officer presence, but we're not mean. And it was just this funny thing because he was stunned. He's like, "But you're so nice." And I'm like, "I am nice. That's very true. I have a very big heart."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. It's
labeling
yeah.
somebody and judging them based on a profession rather than getting to know the person.
Absolutely. Yes, I was gonna oh my gosh, if you get me started, yeah, I won't even start on being a woman physician and the stereotypes and being called by your first name or being called a nurse or comments about your body or, all these things. Yeah. So
Yeah, I bet you.
stereotypes.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be aware of it. Like, I know we all have biases, but like, bring it to your awareness. And I was thankful he shared that with me, and he was very honest about it. And we had a really good, candid discussion
Hmm.
after. But it was pretty surprising to me in that moment. And I'm like, oh wow, okay, well, here we are. Let me, squash
Yeah.
that. So, okay, what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
I think probably the best piece of advice is that it's not your responsibility to bear the burden of taking care of everything and everyone. Yeah. I
What?
didn't realize I was doing that.
Yeah, until you did, and I was with I'm with you, I did the same thing, and then you realize you're slowly dying, and you're like, "Oh,
Yes.
what's the worst
Hmm.
piece of advice you ever got?"
Oh, well, I'm not sure it was advice per se, but this woman narcissist that was in my life, she said to me, I know you better than you know yourself. Yeah. So, hmm,
Sorry for the
yeah.
pregnant pause there, guys. Yeah, and at the
Hmm.
time when she said it, were you in realization that she was a narcissist, or was that something that you were still coming to realize?
Coming to realize. And then after, when I started really remembering conversations or things that this person said, because it was so manipulative and in a context where you thought that they were telling you, that they really cared about you and they could see you were going through something, not realizing it was that sort of manipulation and things. And so, yeah, the word yeah, that was a big realization for me. Yes. So
Yeah.
so
Last
when people you know what I say? When people tell you who they are and you think, "Oh, you're so fun," they're telling you who they are,
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. People will always show you and tell you who they are. Just pay
and
attention.
we don't wanna see it, right, sometimes, but yes, they're telling you the truth.
Very, very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Byerly, I could ask you 20 more questions, but I will I will spare you, and I will ask you this one last question that we always end our Tactical Harmony show with. And that is, what message as it pertains to either leadership, mindset, or performance would you like to leave our high performers here with today?
I want to let them know that they get to have the life of their dreams really, really, really when they can get past who they're supposed to be and really allow who they are and actually go on that journey of exploration, because that's the magic. When you can connect all the pieces, you've conquered, you've achieved, and let's figure out the pieces you left behind and who you want to be. And you get to create who you are now because you've conquered and achieved and you have the ability to do that. So just allow, and you don't have to be doing all the time. Slow down, let yourself, feel the feels.
Dr. Byerly, thank you so
Mhm.
much. You were absolutely amazing. And
Mhm.
I want to ask you so much more, but we will stop there. And I know you have an upcoming TEDx and
Yes.
and you've got the UnNumb Method and the coaching and the
Mm,
collective. Can you please share with our audience where they can find you if they want to hire you for coaching and keep
yes.
an eye out for your TEDx and all the things?
Yes, absolutely. My TEDx is going to be July 26th. It's called TEDx Larchmont Village, and it's the transformational talks. Thank you. There's going to be 50 of us talking. It's going to be unbelievable at UCLA. So oh my gosh, I can't wait. And I'm talking about becoming unnumb. And my website is www.stephaniebyerly.com. I'm in the middle of a rebrand, so it's just a placeholder. But at Stephanie Byerly MD is for LinkedIn and for Instagram and Facebook. So please follow me or book a breakthrough call on my website. Would love to talk to you. And yeah, I'm so excited about the future.
Oh,
Thank you.
I can hear it in your voice. I can see it on in your smile. I love it. I will include all of your amazing links in the show notes below, as per usual. And with that, my heartfelt gratitude from me to you, Dr. Byerly. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.